Hi, and welcome to the Midwest E-Commerce Seminar 2020. We're very glad you could join us today for this series. I am your host, Brad Goldenberg, the CEO of Blayzer Commerce. We're a boutique e-commerce agency for strategy, design, development, and marketing here in St. Louis, Missouri. We originally hoped to be speaking to you live on stage at our beloved Ballpark Village venue, but that just wasn't in the cards for us this year. Because of COVID and the global travel situation, a lot of the e-commerce industry's normal chances to connect, learn what's new, and get the information needed to make good strategic decisions have been canceled or postponed. But the landscape of e-commerce has seen a tremendous amount of change lately, both outside and related to COVID. There's a lot for you to know and keep up with. What's happening out there is too big to sleep on, and your future depends on the decisions you make today. You can't really wait until 2021 or 2022 in some cases to get your strategy in order. So instead of canceling or delaying our event like so many others, we did what everyone here today is doing, or has done at some point. We pivoted to the web. We pulled in our partners together to bring you this online series and give you the important information you need to be successful. Blayzer Commerce is bringing you this series in collaboration with our partners at BigCommerce, Bright Pearl, TaxJar, Shipper HQ, Square, Dot Digital, Trustpilot, and Glue. All these companies stepped right up to the plate, and I have really put a lot into this series. I can't say enough about how glad I am to be doing this with them together. I think we've all learned a lot of the value of good partners this year, and we certainly have things covered here at Blayzer. We have 3 sessions for you today. First up, my business partner, Mike from Blayzer, will talk a little bit about accelerating e-commerce in a COVID era, and how companies have been using this time to make big strides and grow their e-commerce business. After that, you'll hear from my VP of Business Development, Mitch Pilla, on how to plan e-commerce strategy that helps you achieve your sales growth and revenue goals. And bringing it home today, we'll hear from Lauren Spence at BigCommerce on how choosing the right e-commerce platform can help you future-proof your business against things like COVID and other factors that can disrupt your business. After the presentations, we'll do a quick wrap-up toast with our partners' signature cocktails, then hang around for some live Q&A. If you have questions but aren't able to stick around, be sure to send them into the webinar chat and our experts will get back to you offline. We hope you enjoyed today's presentations and learn a lot of good info. Without further ado, let's kick things off with Mike Landau from Blayzer Commerce with accelerating e-commerce in a COVID era.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. My name is Michael Landau. I'm co-founder and chief marketing officer here at Blayzer Commerce. Brad and I also own and manage a recording and production facility here in the same building by the name of Fat Buddha Productions. In my roles here at Blayzer and Fat Buddha, I spend a lot of time speaking directly with people about the future, what it looks like, what they want from it, and how to follow a path forward and reach their goals. As you can imagine, those conversations have been a bit different this year. Since the future has been less clear, a lot of time has been spent in the present, fixing immediate problems and adapting to some very significant changes. But time does not wait, and the future still comes. Remember how far away fall felt at the start of all of this? Now the holidays are right around the corner. 2021 will be here before we know it. And no matter how much we dislike it, COVID-19 is going to be a part of that future. A whole lot has already been said about COVID and everything that's happened. And I think most people online with us today are pretty familiar with the story. So we'll skip over that autopsy. Like most things in life, what happened with COVID isn't as important as how we react and respond to it.
Imagine your business as a car. It's important. It's what moves you forward. The road is time. And you, well, you're you. This turn ahead is a pandemic. We've never been on this road before. We don't know how sharp this turn will be. There's 3 options. Some businesses will stop and cease to exist, losing their staff. losing their drive. They do not have what it takes to stay on the road. But how many businesses will pass them up? Some businesses will push ahead and crash. Others will control their speed until they see where the turn ends. And as soon as they do, they accelerate, pushing their digital marketing, seeing the road ahead, leaving the competition behind. Here's to being smart, safe, and ahead of the rest.
The hairpin curves of COVID have been a test. It's tested your operational flexibility, your communication systems, your technology solutions, and the strength of your strategy. How well your company has been doing on that test probably correlates directly with why you are here today. If you've been seeing a lot of problems, then you're here for help. You need some concrete steps that will get you back on track. If you've hit a few big bumps along the way, but otherwise are holding on, then you're probably here because you're ready to get out of crisis control mode and start hitting your goals again. And if you've been kicking ass through this, then you know you have a special opportunity to take hold of here, and you need to push that as far as you can go. That's a pretty wide spectrum and a lot of different reasons for being here. But here we all are, together, virtually, in the same place at the same time, ultimately looking for the same thing. That's because COVID has also been a very powerful equalizer in many ways. It's certainly unlike anything we've seen in 22 years in business here at Blayzer Commerce. And it's been a pretty loaded 22 years. We made it through the 90s dot-com bubble, 9/11, and the financial crisis. We saw the rise of social media, online video, and mobile technology. A lot of very big things have happened over the years, but never before has something essentially brought us all to the same starting line to face a common challenge like this. Think about how rare that really is. As businesses and marketers who exist to serve our customers, we don't need to know the future to be successful. We just need to know our customers. We just need to be able to predict how our customers will react to change. And for that, time is on our side. Now that months have passed, we've had some time to learn from this experience. We've had some time to observe, to gather data, and identify patterns. The customer has spoken. Buyers everywhere, ourselves included, have made it clear what is truly valued and essential in a COVID era. We'll start with the obvious one: convenience. People want companies to make adapting to the changes of COVID easy for them. They want curbside pickup, home delivery, and digital communication. They want a seamless transition between in-person and online services. They believe that technology is capable of solving many of our current problems. They are correct. People also want to feel safe, secure, and cared for. They want products and services to help keep themselves and their families healthy. They want to buy those things with ease from companies that care enough for their customers and employees to make efforts to keep them safe and served. They want companies to communicate with them and be transparent about these efforts so that they can make their choices and spend their dollars in alignment with their values. Speaking of communication, COVID has shown us how much people value social connection in the customer experience. Whether it's personal communication with a business representative or a way to connect with other customers online, people want and need social interaction. Customer communication should be a two-way street. Customers want brands to communicate new, important, and relevant information, and they also want convenient and fulfilling ways to ask questions, get assistance, and share feedback. Another very important thing customers crave right now is certainty. If there's been one overarching theme to COVID-19 and 2020 as a whole, it would be uncertainty. We're all facing new challenges, strange situations, and unclear futures without prior experience or a plan to guide us. Any source of certainty right now is welcome and appreciated. even down to little things like a website showing accurate inventory and delivering on time according to its shipping estimates. Be confident, be clear, and keep your promises. As businesses, we have a unique opportunity to help provide leadership and direction in uncertain times. We have an audience, we have a platform. We have both responsibility and incentive to rise to the occasion and lead by example. We can innovate, adapt, and give our customers what they want and need. And then we can accelerate. No matter how well or not well you've made it through COVID so far, it is now time to take your foot off the brakes and accelerate ahead. That means investing in the areas of business that are going to get you through this and position you well for the future. For manufacturing, retail, wholesale, and distribution companies, e-commerce has ascended from being a cool convenience or secondary sales channel to a primary and essential source of not just revenue, but business continuity. COVID has confirmed it. When your customers and buyers can't do business with you, as usual, you need to offer them a way to do business with you online. And you need that experience to be every bit as good, if not better, than your in-store, in-person customer experience. First up, you need to define your e-commerce strategy. This is where you plan out what your store is and does, what your goals are, what you need to develop and do in order to go after those goals. A strategy can't stop COVID or the next curve that comes our way, but it can help you find your way around challenges and get back on track faster. It makes it easier to be agile and adapt. A lot of companies learned the hard way this year that a little bit of planning and documentation of your goals and strategy can go a very long way. Next, there is your e-commerce technology. You need to organize your catalog well and present your information properly online in a way that attracts and impresses your customers. There's a lot more to a store than just what's on the shelf. You need a solid stack of software solutions that will keep your back office and fulfillment operations running smoothly. Quality technology and data systems are how you can deliver the certainty and dependability that customers really want and need from their vendors right now. We tend to think about consumers and B2C a lot when we talk about e-commerce, but this is an area where B2B really stands out. If you're selling to other businesses who are relying on your products to operate and serve their customers, then your speed, accuracy, and reliability are that much more important, especially if you are or serve essential businesses. E-commerce marketing. Now is also the time to evolve your e-commerce marketing strategy. This might mean different things depending on your business. It could mean shifting from traditional marketing or things like trade shows and expos to doing more marketing online like ads, emails, and social media. It could also mean advancing your existing digital marketing plan with more modern strategies like marketplace and feeds, customer reviews, SEO enhancements, marketing automation, chatbots, and data-driven marketing. No matter what your specific mix includes, creating an integrated strategy for all your marketing will help keep your efforts efficient, effective, and aligned with your business goals. If that sounds like a lot of pieces to put together, you're not wrong. Depending on where you're starting from, it could take a lot of work to get you where you need to be. But you wouldn't be here today if you weren't already up to the challenge. And you don't have to do it alone. Putting all the pieces together is easy with a strong solution community and the guiding hand of an experienced and proven agency partner like Blayzer Commerce. As a certified BigCommerce partner and longtime custom web and marketing agency, we have the technical capabilities, creativity, and community connections to deliver everything your shop needs to accelerate your e-commerce business through and beyond COVID. Thank you everyone for your time and attention. I look forward to answering your questions and continuing this talk at the end of today's program.
Thanks, Mike, for all the great info and insights. If you're just turning into the Midwest e-commerce seminar, I'm your host, Brad Goldenberg, and we just heard from my partner, Mike Landau of Blayzer Commerce, about accelerating e-commerce in a COVID era. If you have any questions you'd like Mike to answer at the end of today's program, Please submit them to the webinar chat or email them to qa@midwestecommerceseminar.com, or you can post them on social media using the hashtag MES2020. Next on the agenda, we have another member of the Blayzer Commerce team, VP of Business Development, Mitch Pilla. Mitch is here to talk to you about planning your e-commerce strategy in alignment with your business goals. Take it away, Mitch.
All right. Thanks, Brad, for the introduction, and hello, everyone. As Brad said, I'm Mitch Pilla, the VP of Business Development at Blayzer in St. Louis. I'm happy to be here, part of this educational webinar, and I hope everybody at the end of it sees as much value in it as I do. Now, my objective here is to kind of show you the purpose of e-commerce strategy and why it is so important. You wouldn't build a brick and mortar store without having a blueprint and a planogram. So you shouldn't build your online solution without something similar in place. Now, the objective here is to put you in a successful position with your design and your development in order to set you up for future success with your development, your solutions, your user experience, all of the above. And at the start of COVID, and throughout all of COVID, we've obviously had a lot of different questions kind of come through. Like when somebody gives me a call, they're usually in one of two places, one of three places, or in a bunch of different places, and there's an infinite number of questions that come up. You end up with people who have a brick and mortar store and just need to get their online solution up as soon as possible. Or you have people who already have an online solution, but now that everything is completely digital, they're kind of struggling to find, well, how do I integrate with my store, and how do I get every one of my point of sale systems and my back office management and all of that? Like, how do I get all of that to cooperate with my website? Or you get manufacturing companies or distributors who were previously going from store to store or from wholesaler to wholesaler, trying to take orders in person through an iPad or whatever, but now they're having to do everything either via phone or looking for an online order system. And in thinking about all of these things and all these problems that everybody's having, you know, I kind of tried to take it to like a personal level and try to bring it down to a level that might be understood from a perspective of somebody who might not be as technologically savvy. So I started thinking about it, and a personal experience of mine was that at the end of summer last year, I moved into a new house. I didn't have a garage, but there was a concrete slab that I'm sure the previous owners had a wonderful shed on it. And the shed wasn't there, but I had the slab. And the slab was kind of weird dimensions as I'm starting to look at all these prefab sheds just to get something up before the winter. Well, it's 10.5 feet by 7.5 feet, which are kind of odd dimensions, so I'd end up with a lot less space around it. And I really wanted to make sure that I did it right the first time to maximize the efficiency of the space and maximize my dollars. So I decided to reach out to my brother, who's an architect, and he built me this awesome design. And you know, I messed around with it for a little bit. I kind of like, we made a couple changes to the design, and then it hit me. I was like, man, I really want this design, but with winter right around the corner, I have to pretty much start building this right now, or I'm not going to have it up in time. And that was kind of what I didn't want to happen because of the fact that I had all my tools in the basement and it was just clutter, and I really wanted to get it up and going. So despite my better judgment, I called him up one day and I was like, hey man, this is an awesome design. Will you send me a list of materials I need to do it? And he kind of laughed naturally and was like, oh, you never really said you approved the design. I haven't put together this blueprint. I haven't put together all the specs. Like, but if you're really going to do that, I could probably send you a list of like starting materials. And so he sent me a list of starting materials and I got going. no plans, nothing. I'm just like, well, a general idea of what I need to do. I can start working on this and start getting it. And as I'm progressing, maybe he can get me more and more information so that it maximizes the efficiency, like I said, similar to how an e-commerce strategy would be. Well, then in all of this, it kind of made me realize that I was in a similar situation to some people's thought process, like in COVID, where you're set, you're ready, you have your place, and then something happens and you're forced to do something against your better judgment in order to get something up as soon as possible. Well, throughout the building of this shed, we did kind of find efficiencies along the way, but if you don't have the whole plans and the full list of what you need in place at the beginning, you end up making more trips to Home Depot than you needed to, buying more materials, buying the wrong materials because you thought that that would work, but then realized that it wouldn't, so you're taking a step back while trying to move forward. And really, at the end of the day, what it came down to is I got it finished. I completed the project before winter, but it took me a lot longer than it would have if I had just set that process in place right up front. And I had to make adjustments along the way that weren't originally part of the design in order to get there. So if I would have just, held off for 2 weeks and come up with the overall strategy as opposed to jumping right into it, I would have, been done a lot quicker and saved myself probably some money. But at the end of the day, I did end up with the solution that I wanted. So that said, there isn't a reason, even if you had to jump into something, there's always a way to get back to that place where you want to be, where you envision your business, your company, and all of your integrations. And that's essentially why I thought it would be a great idea to set up this whole e-commerce strategy as establishing your blueprint, so to speak. It's obviously not a blueprint. It's not going to be drawn up on paper in a very measurement by measurement, material by material kind of way, but it's the same kind of thinking that you have to go into at the start in order to maximize the solution, maximize the dollars and the efficiency of time for yourself, your employees, and your customers. So there are several things that take into effect in kind of a process that you have to go through, and that all starts with the processes, and I use that term loosely because the processes for customers versus the processes that you're doing internally, they can all be kind of integrated and looked at in a way that's going to help not only your company, but your consumers as well. So the process and the customer journey we're going to look at first. Then we're going to go on to budgets and planning. After that, you're pretty much set up. You've got your goals and everything in place, and then we'll look at the technology stack. And from there, you've got all of those solutions. Well, what are we going to do for marketing? How are we really going to drive that traffic? How are we going to get customers to be continuously engaging with our brand? And how are we going to drive that lifetime value? So we're going to start with this process and customer journey, like I said. So obviously during all of this, we have to look at your processes because your processes have most likely changed. I would assume that if you were typically in a store, and most people that I've talked to where they were just a brick and mortar, they were in the store, and before they left at the end of the week, they were running inventory for the next order by walking around to the shelves. They were looking in the back room, see okay, well, this week we went through this and that. And so those are your internal processes that you have to consider, as well as your accounting, your books, your tax solutions, all of that. So then you have to look at your customers' processes. Well, those have obviously dramatically changed. Where people were going into a store, they are no longer doing that as frequently. And these are habits that are going to remain for the years to come. We don't even know. People could be spending less and less time at stores over the coming years. I know for a fact that whenever I'm done with work, I close my laptop, and instead of going to the store, I go sit on the couch and I do my grocery order. And in 2019, there was just 4% of online sales were grocery. And just going into the end of March, according to Forbes, it was up 225%. That's that's a pretty significant change over the course of, just a few months, and all due to obviously COVID. So the consumer buying experiences have changed. And with that less in-store activity, you're getting a lot less impulse buys. I'm not walking down an aisle and being like, well, actually, I could probably use these energy drinks at the house. No, now I'm just buying the necessities that I need and potentially, grabbing an energy drink here and there at the gas station. Or I'm not buying anything in the frozen food aisle like, oh, this pizza looks good, or well, I was going to do chicken tonight, but now that I'm seeing these steaks, I'm going to do chicken and steak. And so that you're getting a lot of the comfort buys, a lot less of those. Everything being more online with the curbside pickup and delivery, you're going to have to figure out how you can change your processes based off of your customers' processes and the habits that have formed that are going to stay around for a while. So with that, you kind of have to think like, well, what all aspects of my business can be digitized? There are a number of them, I assure you. There are a lot of different solutions out there, and you will see over these coming next couple weeks, hearing from all these different software companies and software platforms, that there are solutions out there. Now, whether those solutions are right for you, that's what has to be determined up front in order to meet those goals. So going at goals, talking about that, we have to look at like, well, we need this whole budgets and planning. We can't really plan without a budget, and we can't budget without a plan. So you have to start looking at, what are your goals? Where are you at right now? What is your online revenue, and where do you see it being? What is your 6-month goal, your 12-month goal? Assuming that a majority of your sales were in store, but now a majority of them are online, well, now everything is shifting. Everything is kind of evolving, and we have to evolve with it or be left kind of in the dust or struggling to kind of catch up with the industry trends. So you firstly want to set up your goals, get those established. Maybe your first goal is like, I just want to get online. Well, you got to think about what's the next step beyond that. I just want to get online? Sure. But do I want to get online and then eventually have a back office and inventory management system that I can manage through my website? Do I want all of these to be integrated? The answer should be yes to that, no matter what, because you never want to be building a puzzle with 5 different puzzles and all the pieces combined into one. You want to be building a puzzle with all the same puzzle pieces. And if you're trying to take this software and then eventually link it to this software, whenever there was an initial plugin or a service that would have integrated seamlessly from the start, like that might have been the more cost-effective approach. So that goes back to the budget. It's like figuring out and fine-tuning that is going to really set you up for the future. So then you want to do a market analysis. You want to see what's going on in your industry. You want to look at the marketplace, what different platforms are being sold on, what your consumers are using to sell all of, or to buy all of their products at the time. So maybe while your online sales over here aren't doing phenomenal, if you were into these other marketplaces, then you might be doing better based off of the product or service offering that you're providing. And then naturally a competitor analysis goes hand in hand with just about anything. You want to see what your competitors are doing. And if you don't have any competitors, then that's pretty awesome and you're probably doing all right. But everybody has competitors in the real world. So you want to see what your competitors are doing and where they're selling. And maybe if they're selling in certain marketplaces and they're kind of doing really well there, maybe you want to check those out. But you got to do that initial competitive analysis right up front. And then lastly, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. These are all things that you need to know in this industry coming into, these coming months. Like going into the holiday season, all of these things are going to be extremely important in the e-commerce world. So now that we've established, your budgets and your planning and what you want to do with that and how you see your company in the next coming months and what's going to be most effective, then we have to start looking at the technology. What is the technology solution? Well, there are so many different e-commerce platforms out there, and a lot of people, like I said earlier, kind of just, I got to get my store online. And so they went into an e-commerce solution that was referred by a friend, or it was the first thing that showed up in a Google search and seemed really easy, or it was a plug-in to their current website. Well, now is the time to start thinking about, well, I've got the time now and I've got the revenue coming in, and we're going into the holiday season, so sales online will most likely be picking up as they always have. So now is the time to start thinking about, well, now I got to get myself into the right platform potentially so that I can go into 2021 with the ultimate plan and be able to hit that year by storm. So looking at all the different platforms, I mean, they're endless. It's finding the right one and then looking at the next step. Like, well, what does my back office and inventory management look like? Well, we don't know until we start looking into that. But there are a bunch of different platforms out there for that. There's also tax solutions. Well, if you're selling nationally, you probably need tax solutions by county, city, state, government, local government. Like, all of these are different tax brackets, different taxing municipalities. So those tax percentages are going to be different, and you probably need a tax solution that's going to help your accountant out, and probably yourself, with having that already integrated into your e-commerce solution. The other thing is the payment method. Well, you have to have a good payment method that is pretty much contactless now. So being able to accept payments through your website solution, being able to just swipe through a chip reader if you are doing an in-person transaction, or even using like Apple Pay or Google Wallet, one of those contactless. Like, what is your payment solution? What are you going to do in order to make those situations feel more comfortable for your consumers going forward? And then there's shipping. Well, you used to be able to just ship straight from the store. Maybe you're not able to do that anymore. Now you're having to do a lot of shipping or maintain shipping from a house or an apartment even. So it's not really feasible to have like your entire department store all packaged up at your house. Well, there's so many different shipping solutions out there that are going to integrate with all of these systems, and then they'll all speak to each other. So if your back office and inventory management says you're out of stock, then obviously your e-commerce platform won't allow that to be purchased, and therefore it won't accept the payment and no shipping has been executed. I mean, there's a bunch of different aspects to look at here. And the last thing really going into the shipping is, well, coming into holiday season, you're obviously going to start getting a lot of returns, especially if you're in that clothing and retail space where people are buying gifts and clothing and stuff for friends and family and not really knowing the size. Well, that's whenever you start seeing an influx of returns. Well, how are you going to handle all of those returns? Well, there are solutions out there, like a company based out of California called Happy Returns, that handles all of that. They have locations where you can easily just drop off and it gets shipped back, you get refunded, it handles it all seamlessly. But that all integrates into certain platforms. But not every platform integrates. And the ultimate goal is that what your tech stack is all working together. It's aligning. It's like, the stars align. You want them all to be talking and communicating to each other. You want them all to be seamlessly interacting with one another so that you have live data coming in from each source. And the only way to do that is to have all of these solutions in place from the beginning. And if you don't have them in place from the beginning, then at least have that stair-step approach to know where you see yourself being. And that goes back to the budgets and planning. And then lastly, once you get all of these systems in place, well, you need to know how to market it. And marketing obviously is a pretty important part of all of these things, but not necessarily marketing is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the marketing technology that you're utilizing, because you want to utilize marketing technology based off of your technology stack, so that if you're doing some email marketing over here, well, you're pulling real-time data from your e-commerce solution, and pulling that real-time data allows you to do some triggered emails, some reminders, or some targeted things. Like, you just bought this product over here on Tuesday of last month, and now it's been about a month later and we recommend these products. Getting those recommended products to start driving that lifetime value of a customer, getting those return customers, while also being able to interact with those individuals based off of purchase history. You have so many opportunities with email marketing and social media to do lookalike audiences based off of purchase history, and with reputation management. I won't personally buy a product that's like under 4 stars. Maybe 3.5, I'll consider it. I'll look at the reviews, but nowadays we rely so much on the reputation of the products that we're buying. So we need to have that reputation management in place. And there are solutions out there for it. Some of them will integrate properly. And it just goes back to like, how do we make sure that our whole company is working seamlessly without having to, oh, well, now we got to re-platform this and we got to re-platform this. Now we're spending extra money over here when we could have just spent this money at the beginning. And that's the whole objective, right? The whole objective is to make sure that at the end of the day, you're maximizing your dollars. You're maximizing the efficiency of your time. You want that strategy in place for your e-commerce solution, no matter what, right at the beginning. And I think that if you look into all of these things and you start considering them, then over the next couple months going into the holiday season, while you're already like set in place, it's the perfect time to start looking into, all right, well, where do we want to be? What time do we have to start in order to make it through this holiday season? And then by 2021, we can re-platform it all. And then 2021 is going to be the most efficient we've ever run as a company. So with that, I'm going to, leave it with just some takeaway points. Figure out how your customers are reacting, how they are purchasing, what their whole process is. Have your budgets in place. Make sure that the plan is solid. Make sure that everything is working seamlessly. And then, setting up your internal operations is extremely crucial. Like I said, making sure that the customer experience is at the top priority. Customer experience is very important during this time, and they're going to keep coming back if it was easy and convenient, as we've seen, as those trends have come up. And then ensure that your marketing and your tech stack are speaking to each other. It's going to make it simpler on you, on whatever agency you end up doing your marketing with. It's going to cost you less to hire them if they have less work to do in terms of integration and pulling reports from this location and that location, and just driving all of that additional traffic through their marketing efforts. It's going to make it more cost effective. And then lastly, just don't stress out about it too much. Just make sure that you take the time to sit back and look at your overall big picture and just go from there. See how it feels for you and play it out as you need to. There is no urgency at this point if you're up and running. You just need to get back in there, take a look at it, and try to do it the right way. All right, thanks. Back to you, Brad.
That was Mitch Pilla from Blayzer Commerce with some great information about planning your e-commerce strategy. If you have any questions for Mitch or about e-commerce strategy in general, please send them through the webinar chat or email them to qa@midwestecommerceseminar.com. Next on the agenda today, we have Lauren Spence from BigCommerce. She's here to talk about a very important piece of the e-commerce process, and that's the store itself. How do you choose the right platform? And what is the right approach for re-platforming from one solution to another? Lauren has those questions and answers and more advice for future-proofing your e-commerce business. Let's hear it from Lauren and BigCommerce.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Spence, and I'm a manager of agency partnerships here at BigCommerce. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Midwest e-commerce seminar. Really excited to get some more exciting content your way. You just heard some amazing information from Blayzer, one of our most trusted partner agencies, and lots more to come from other partners such as Digital, TaxJar, BrightPearl, and several others to give you very actual insights on really how to capitalize on your e-commerce business. What I'm going to be talking about today are the foundations of your e-commerce operations, specifically around the e-commerce platform. So first, let me go ahead and share my screen before getting started. Give me one moment. All right, here we are. So today I'm going to be talking about the considerations for choosing the right e-commerce platform and ultimately, making sure that you are future-proofing your business, especially in times of such great uncertainty with COVID-19. But first, a little bit about me, just to get a little bit familiar with each other. I am a native Texan, born and raised here in Austin, Texas. So that does mean you're going to hear the occasional y'all throughout the presentation. I do have an entrepreneurial background. I used to manage my own e-commerce operation for several years, which has really fueled my passion working for BigCommerce. Today, as I mentioned, I'm managing agency partnerships. And ultimately, what my team's doing is we're cultivating a rich network of agencies that are doing the design, implementation, marketing, integration work for all of our merchants, and really helping them grow and scale their business. While I'm not working, I'm a mother of a 9-month-old girl, which is very interesting during quarantine and not having a daycare as an option. So we're rolling with the punches there. And also, while not in quarantine, I was an avid traveler before the world shut down. Over there, the picture to the left is a picture of me traveling in Vancouver. So love to see the world. All right, so before getting into the meat and potatoes of today's presentation, I'd like to set the stage in talking about an analogy that we're going to frequently come back to during today's presentation. In working with BigCommerce, I've been here for about 6 years now, and I've had the pleasure of working with businesses from all walks of life, all types of verticals, fashion, apparel, health and beauty, medical, direct consumer, B2B, or digitally native brands. And, from startups in their garage all the way up to the likes of more established brands like Skull Candy, Paul Mitchell, and Procter & Gamble. And we really, every time we're talking about an e-commerce platform evaluation, we come back to this analogy about a house. So think of your business as the house and think of your platform as the foundations of the house, right? The bones, the piping, insulation, all that. And think of yourself, the e-commerce manager, or owner of the business, as a realtor, and your goal is to sell this house. So what are you going to do when you try and sell this house, right? First thing you're probably going to do is pay someone to come and stage it, make it look nice. So in e-commerce terms, think of that as testing, UI, UX, A/B testing, right? Optimization. Then you're going to probably list some ads, right? Whether that be in traditional forms, right, for real estate, or through third-party marketplaces like Zillow or Redfin. So in the e-commerce world, think of that as the likes of putting out Google ads or social ads, or listing on very well-known marketplaces, right, like Amazon and Walmart. Then you're going to try and get some substantial traffic to the house, right? You're going to try and get as many views and get as many people in there to really see themselves living in this house. So think of that as site traffic, right? And then whenever you do get them to visit, you're going to want them to tell all their friends on social. Right? So think of this as social media marketing, affiliate marketing, etc. Then there's going to be some other considerations, right? Is the house flexible enough to break down a wall, right? So is the site or platform customizable, extensible? Can I add new things like a pool? Think of that as apps, integrations, features. Is it safe to raise my kids? Is it a good school district? Think of that like platform security. And then the not so sexy stuff, right? Is the plumbing, up to code, right? Think of that of things like PCI compliance and other measures of that nature. So you guys get it, right? You can have the prettiest house in the world, a prettiest site in the world, but if the foundations aren't there, it's going to falter, right? And what happens if an earthquake comes up, or using analogies for today, something like COVID-19? Is your technology stack working for you, and are you able to future-proof your business? And are you able to adapt to consumer behaviors and the ways that people are going to be buying from you, right? Or is your technology holding you back? So that's what I'm going to be getting in here to today. So first and foremost, fact number 1, replatforming your e-commerce business isn't fun at all. It's just like moving, right? It's expensive. No one likes packing everything up. Things can break. It's a total hassle. But fact number 2, replatforming your e-commerce business may be absolutely necessary. So last time I mentioned the house analogy, guys, maybe it's crucial. Maybe you got to get into a better school district for your kids. Maybe the plumbing on your existing house is broken. Maybe it's flooded, right? Maybe it's not big enough to support your growing family, right? So in the e-commerce world, there's a whole slew of reasons that you might be thinking of considering a replatform. Here's a few of them. I'm going to get into each one And if any of these bullet points resonate with you, it may be signs that you would need to consider a re-platform. So first and foremost, perhaps you might have had recently a major site outage due to peak traffic. This is probably especially more true now than ever. If you look at online sales this year, around April and May of 2020, right after COVID hit and was at its peak, online sales were 7% higher than all 2019 holiday sales. That's massive, right? Everyone's shopping online now, right? This was already a growing trend well before things like COVID. It's more true now than ever. So is your website able to handle, upticks in traffic and, especially if you're going to be throwing out there like promotional holiday sales and all kinds of other campaigns, can your site handle that? Second one, have you ever had an on-site bug or vulnerability or any type of hacker stealing credit card information? Hopefully you didn't, right? In some cases, for bigger brands, it can cost you millions of dollars in litigations and lawsuits. But are you always having to constantly install security patches or some kind of threat you're always reading about with your platform that you weren't aware of? What about the desire to implement a new feature, but you didn't really have the ability to do so, whether it cost you much, you didn't have the time, or the platform just wasn't flexible enough? I'll give you an example over there to the right. There's 2 platforms in the world. I'll give you a hint as which one is one of those. Ecommerce. They have a native integration for selling on Facebook and selling on Instagram and being able to check out on those channels natively. Are you working with a platform that allows you to do that at a click of a button and make all your posts shoppable? Or if you're going to try and do something like this, are you carrying the bag in terms of hiring a developer and trying to get this thing implemented and maintained? So that's something worth considering as well. Slow page load times and site performance. Guys, this is more important now than ever, especially, right? A lot of shoppers online, majority of them are millennials. They want what they want and they want it now, right? And actually just most of us today have really grown to become quite impatient. So any type of lag in your performance not only is a bad customer experience, but also in terms of your SEO equity and your rankings, that also matters. Google takes those things into account in terms of how fast your site is or how performant it is. Do you have a total cost of ownership that's upside down, right? So do you find yourself constantly paying for, maintaining your tech stack, right? The platform upgrades, maintenance, and application support, and not so much on the front end revenue generating activities. And what I mean by that is, are you able to optimize your content strategy? Are you able to, customize your checkout and focus on conversion rate optimization, marketing? Those are things going to be making you money, not keeping the lights on, right, with the e-commerce platform. And lastly, perhaps you might have lost sleep due to one of the following I just covered. So these are all the main signs you might want to consider, right, if you're thinking about a re-platform. So this is true more than ever. Your website is your top sales representative, right? And companies that treat their website like this are thriving over the ones that don't. Think of if you have a brick and mortar operation or had one, and you had a sales rep, and that sales rep was only converting 1 to 3% of the leads that came in your store. You probably would want to, invest in either training that person or getting a new person if they're not getting it. And by someone that's not converting, that could be they had a bad experience with customers, they're giving them the wrong information, they were slow to respond to things, not giving them the right time and attention. That same analogy goes for your website. You want to be working with the technology stack that's allowing you to focus on optimizing your performance, optimizing your merchandising, and really focusing on innovation. And this is true now more than ever because the way that consumers are buying from you is changing every day. So what we do know is consumers are really demanding experiential commerce. So to get into this a little bit more, let's start with segmenting the different cohorts of shoppers, right? You got your Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X and boomers. And how we interact and transact every day is changing, whether you're, B2B, right, wholesaler, or a classic retailer. This applies for both categories. So on the B2B side of things, think of the millennial buyer, they are demanding a direct consumer type experience, right? They're not wanting to email purchase orders or do things the old way. They want to do things the more, the new way, right? It's just the traditional e-com model. So you have to think about that, right? And there's different expectations for each cohort. One thing that is true for all of these though, especially in light of COVID, are some behaviors and things that they are really seeking when they're going to buy products online. First and foremost, they want autonomy, right? They want to feel in control of their actions, especially because things right now in 2020, everything feels really out of control. So being able to make sure your site is highly informative, making sure you're working with a technology that lets you adjust some of that messaging really easily. Shoppers also want to have a sense of relatedness to products they're buying. So they want to feel like they're doing something of benefit to themselves or family or for the betterment of society. So think of things like donating to charities right now or other causes in need during this time. That's also something worth considering to incorporate in your practice. And third, shoppers want to feel competent. They want to feel like they're getting a good deal. So are you working with a technology that allows you to quickly pivot and make changes to your promotional strategy? That's something you'll need to think about. Omnichannel is key. Again, I've said this over and over, but people and the way they buy from you is changing every day. Gone are the days of simply just searching for a static site and just, only finding a brand through direct search or just buying directly from a brand's website. People are finding and interacting with brands through content, through social marketplaces. And not only do they want to learn more about you and connect with your brand that way, and even through email, they want to be able to buy those channels too. Last but not least, consumers are demanding high engagement and high personalization. They want beautiful sites. They want the products that are being merchandised and surfaced to them to be relevant to things that they've been looking for, right? And other product searches from other sites as well too. So this is really important, again, regardless if you're a B2B or a direct-to-consumer retailer. So wanted to put this picture up, this fancy fridge, right? That this father and son are potentially, ordering their new groceries from. Because again, just to paint the picture of where the market is going or where it could be going. Today, especially, now if you're looking at grocery shopping, everyone's doing that online or doing some type of curbside pickup because of safety. I personally was doing this, before COVID, just out of convenience. So think of how the future of this type of shopping is going to change. Probably like 5 years from now, we're all just going to be ordering milk from our fridge directly if you consider the Internet of Things. So again, not necessarily applicable to all e-commerce operations, but it's something to think about. Are you working with a tech stack that's going to allow you to easily, put your products in other channels and other devices that people might be shopping from? Instagram's a good use case. This might be more applicable to talk about. Who thought 5 years ago, right, that Instagram would be a huge channel to purchase or do product research on? I certainly didn't, but I'm definitely doing Instagram shopping on a daily basis. There's ads coming at me. I do a lot of product research there. In fact, 70% of shoppers today are doing their product research on Instagram in a lot of cases before they go and do that research on Amazon, which is extremely telling. So again, it's really important you're working with a platform that's thinking of these things for you and continuously releasing these types of features, especially these omni-channel features, so that you can easily sell in other markets. All right, so the question is, are you going where the market's going? So if anyone here is a fan of The Clash, should I stay or should I go now? That's what we're going to be digging into for some platform considerations. So I'm going to talk about 4 key technology trends. They're really changing the way consumers are buying, and it's also changing the way marketers and e-commerce managers are operating their business. So if you're responding negatively to any of these 4 things, then it might be time to rethink your e-commerce platform. So number 1, does your technology still work for you? So this is the table stakes stuff, right? Is it stable? Is it reliable? Remember, we talked about the huge uptick in traffic and people shopping online now. So does your platform support that from a performance standpoint? Is it flexible enough to expand your catalog, right, and test and learn new products and strategies, or are you limited by certain product limitations? Do you have an extensible and curated app ecosystem to allow you to test and learn new strategies, whether that be email marketing automation? Maybe you want to start implementing subscriptions on your site to help and increase the lifetime value of your customers. So you need to make sure that you have integrations with best of breed tools to really utilize and implement in your business. Are you able to quickly react to changing consumer behaviors? And what we mean by react is, especially given in today's time, can you adjust your on-site experience to the at-home audience, right? Or do you always need to work with a developer or someone to go and make those site changes and tweaks, right, and change that messaging? Or do you have that independence on your own to go do so yourself? Last but not least, Are there developers that want to build on your platform, right? Or is there a skill shortage? So these are really important to consider right around if your technology is still working for you. Number two, is your total cost of ownership upside down? So do you constantly see yourself, paying for unforeseen upgrades such as, development, security patches, trying to upgrade, new licenses, things like that? Or are you able to focus that money on, testing, new products that you might want to sell, or really fueling innovation or fueling marketing? Are you using your IT resources in the right way? Or are they always sitting there trying to make sure that things just don't go down and just keeping the lights on? So if you're living this way, you certainly don't have to be. Number three, this one is arguably one of the most important pieces. So are you able to optimize marketing spend and earned marketing to fuel your growth? This one's huge because people that really focus on building their audience and that earned marketing are what's going to separate the winners from the losers. Look at any disruptive brand out there. Think of things like, Dollar Shave Club or the Harry's of the world, right? Dollar Shave Club, one day, were able to build this overnight audience of millions of customers with one YouTube video. And they really focused on building an audience, right? And really connecting with their brands. And they're working with a really flexible platform to allow them to not only get that audience, but to really capitalize on that and build a great experience for everyone that was interacting with them along the way, and successfully build that subscription model. So what they did overnight essentially went leaps and bounds around what Gillette has been trying to do for around 15 years. So Gillette, a Procter & Gamble brand, a couple years ago, they actually, to combat this, decided to re-platform to BigCommerce to work with the platform to easily allow them to go direct to consumer and actually start a subscription shave club as well, and then directly compete and build a better audience. So these things are really important. And if you're going to be spending all this time in marketing and getting people to come to your site, is your site mobile friendly, right? Most people are going to find you from their phone. Do you have digital wallets to allow for quick and easy checkout? Is the platform SEO optimized? Can you test and learn and personalize and really capitalize on that marketing? So again, this is really, really important, is if you're spending all this money on marketing, getting people to come and interact with you, make sure they have a great experience and that they can actually check out in an easy way. Number four, are you able to securely scale your business? So this is the not so sexy stuff, right? All the fun acronyms like DDoS protection, PCI compliance, GDPR compliance, ISO certifications, all that stuff in the security realm. Are you having to worry about those things or pay someone to do that? Or are you working with a platform that's handling these things for you? You should, if you're not, you certainly should take a look at that. That way you can take all that heavy lifting off your plate and let your platform worry about it. And this is especially important as you consider, omni-channel strategies, or if you're wanting to, go and sell international, you need to make sure you can securely do that and securely accept payments through all these channels as well. What you will need to consider, right, if any of those four things resonate with you, you're going to have this technology spectrum to look at and look at e-commerce platforms, right? You have either open source systems or cloud or SaaS-based systems. And there's benefits, pros and cons to each one. If you look at open source, these systems are highly customizable, very flexible, right? Sky's the limit with what you can do from a development standpoint. But we know with great power comes great responsibility in terms of cost, security, overhead, sluggish, not exactly the most performant. And that's why a lot of these folks that traditionally been working with on-prem or open source systems, they start to look at SaaS platforms because they're marketer friendly, they're very easy to use, total cost of ownership is very, very attractive, right? These are very cost-effective solutions. And they're constantly being fueled with innovation and easily getting access to new features, whereas on the open source side, you have to add those features yourself. So, but the trade-off with cloud or a SaaS-based system is they historically have not been very flexible, very cookie-cutter, templated. If you wanted to do both B2B and B2C within one site, maybe you wanted to take a headless approach and integrate with best-of-breed content management system, or have a certain ERP you need to utilize for your business. These systems typically haven't been very strong. There's no silver bullet to commerce, but I would like to think BigCommerce does come pretty close. So what you will need to consider, and what we highly recommend, is going with an open SaaS platform, a company that's going to give you the best of both worlds between on-prem and software as a service. So giving you that same power and flexibility and extensibility to do whatever you want, but not compromising on user friendliness, being very cost effective, and allowing you to scale into new markets. So old way of doing commerce, very slow, not flexible. Think about that as like, single channel, right? Didn't have an omni-channel focus, very closed. It was quite expensive, but the open SaaS way allows you to be more nimble, more flexible, really focus on that omni-channel strategy and work with a best-in-class ecosystem. So let me talk about the best-in-class ecosystem methodology for a second. You want to make sure, whatever platform you're working with, that they're just focusing solely on being the best e-commerce platform, right? There's other companies that not only try and provide you, the e-com platform, but they also want to, give you a payments platform, POS platform. Maybe they want to throw in an ERP or an email service provider or a CRM, right? And it becomes very monolithic. The problem with that is the technology that you're using today is not necessarily the technology that you may need or want to use tomorrow, right? As you grow and scale. So working with an open SaaS platform gives you the flexibility to test and learn new integrations and really work with the best of breed solutions for any type of e-commerce operation. So just giving you a quick customer snapshot of BigCommerce. These are the clients we've gotten it right for, whether we're automotive, industrial, fashion apparel, food and beverage, sports and outdoors, you name it. All the things from B2B, like General Electric brands, to direct consumer brands, and some more notable ones, right? Like Fitbit, Skull Candy, K2, Rock Bottom Golf. So what's beautiful about open SaaS is you can, regardless of the vertical you're in, a platform like that can really grow and scale with you and really service a variety of requirements. I like to give an example of someone that's doing a great job, living the open SaaS way and also really focusing on experiential commerce and personalization. So Burrow, if you haven't heard of them, this is an awesome furniture, digitally native brand. It's actually founded by two guys that had the same problem. They wanted to find good but affordable furniture. They really wanted to disrupt this space. And as you know, if you're buying furniture today, it's one of those things where you feel like you have to go in a store and really feel everything out, but they wanted to change that, right? Who has time for that? And actually, who can safely do that today, right? So the problem with their existing platform is they were constantly, handcuffed by the processes or developers if they wanted to make any type of content changes to their site and really, adapt any type of marketing campaigns. Templates weren't flexible, and they really weren't able to integrate with backend systems to help them be more efficient with their shipping and operations. So they went with BigCommerce because they could take a headless approach. And headless, what they're able to do is take off our presentation layer and put on their own custom content management platform. And with that platform, they're able to easily change marketing campaigns and really adapt, especially now, to this at-home audience with everyone building their at-home offices and trying to furnish their homes. So they're able to get launched very quickly and scaled their business more than they ever could have imagined. Here's another experiential commerce example, Firewire surfboards. Not sure if there are many surfers in the Midwest here, but this is a company, brand founded by Kelly Slater. If you're not familiar with Kelly Slater, he's essentially like the Tony Hawk of surfing, one of the greatest surfers of all time, and he's selling surfboards online. Another BigCommerce customer, he's actually using WordPress in the front end, right, to take a more experiential, content-driven approach. But what's really interesting is what they're doing offline for experiential commerce. So there's a surf park in Australia they run, and if you're wanting to test out a board, you work with the consultant to get the right fit. You can spend all day, surfing in this park and falling in love with that surfboard. And when you get out of the water, still wet in your wetsuit, there's little kiosks that you can go and buy that surfboard that you just spent all day falling in love with. Before you get home from the park that day, in a lot of cases, depending on where you live, those surfboards can arrive on your front door before you even get home. That's experiential commerce. So what they're doing is using, PWAs and kiosks to really, really connect the dots there and create a great experience for their merchants. So behind the scenes, they're using Acumatica as their ERP. All this integrates with their inventory on their online store. So whether people purchase from them offline or online, their customers are having an amazing experience. It's very personalized and very tailored to them, which is why they're doing so well. All right, so let's do a quick recap. four most important things to consider when looking at replatforming your e-commerce business. So first and foremost, is it customizable and extensible? So not only is this pertaining to the look and feel and having, a good content approach on your site, but this also goes with backend integrations, right? Are you able to use, the payments platform of your choice? Are you able to use the ERP system of your choice? Can you do both B2B and B2C within one site? So making sure that you can meet those table stakes requirements for your business. Number two, is it secure and reliable? Can you sleep at night, right? Knowing that your site is secure, people can come visit and securely check out, and your shoppers feel that kind of trust from you as well. If you're going to run a flash sale right over the holidays, especially considering Cyber 5 this year, which is going to be the biggest Cyber 5 ever, can your site handle the influx in traffic that's going to happen over the holidays? Number three, once you take care of all those table stakes things, are you working with a technology that's allowing you to focus on attracting and converting shoppers? Can you fuel, saved budget into, working with your partners, someone like Blayzer, right, to really capitalize on marketing spend? And also once they get to your site, is your site nimble enough, right, to get people to check out as quick as possible, right? Are you able to optimize checkout and those kinds of things? And number four, do you have a low total cost of ownership? This one's huge, right? You want to make sure that you're able to focus on investing in things that are driving you money and driving you more sales versus just keeping the lights on with the tech stack. So making sure you have a low total cost of ownership to really balance that and balance those activities, and making sure you're spending resources in the right areas is very, very important. So really appreciate the time today, guys. Again, my name is Lauren with Ecommerce. If you'd like to connect with me, feel free to shoot me an email, send me a text, connect with me on LinkedIn, give me a call. Happy to answer any questions about what we went over today. Ultimately, our goal here is to ensure that you're future-proofing your business, regardless of vertical, regardless of industry, and really appreciate the time. Hope you're looking forward to more exciting content from the rest of our speakers today with the Midwest e-commerce seminar. Thank you so much.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you to BigCommerce and Lauren for that great session about future-proofing your business with the right e-commerce platform. Audience, please send your platform-related questions and other inquiries for Lauren to qa@midwestecommerceseminar.com, or hit us up in the webinar chat, or blast us on social media at #MES2020. As we gather up your questions, I want to take a moment and raise a glass to today's speakers and everyone out in the audience. Ordinarily, we capped off the day with a happy hour social where we can get to network, get to know each other, and get into some more in-depth conversations. But this was no ordinary year. So to keep the spirit alive, we've asked each of our partners to provide a signature cocktail recipe that we can share with you, hoping that you might join us in a collective toast to a great first day and a future full of success. Today's drinks are the BigCommerce Blue Lagoon, a show-stopping drink of vodka, lemonade, and blue curacao. This is surprisingly simple to set up and packs a punch. We also have the Blayzer Commerce Blazing River. Here's a closer look at making these delicious concoctions. All these recipes are online at midwestecommerceseminar.com/cocktail. We'll be doing this ritual each week, so there's a time to tune in and check it out. We also love to hear from you about your signature cocktails, especially if they involve anything from the Midwest region's favorite spirits, brews, and beverages. So send them in and we'll do a blog post or something like that to share with your group. Cheers, everyone. All right, everybody, let's get down to some Q&A.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Midwest e-commerce seminar as we finish up today. I've got a few questions for each of our presenters today. So first, I'm going to start with Mike Landau. What should a beginner know about before starting an e-commerce business during COVID-19?
Well, there's a lot of things to consider, Brad. Thank you for hosting today too. You did a great job. Thank you, everybody. But no, right now, sort of as has been stated in some of the presentations today, there's really never been a better time to get involved with e-commerce. You have a ton of businesses and consumers that are being forced and pushed into e-commerce. Obviously now is a great time if you have a good plan, a good strategy. A good friend of mine passed along a quote to me a couple of weeks ago that I love, and it goes a little something like, a plan without execution is useless, and execution without plan is aimless. And so you need both the talent, you need the idea, the concept, but you also need a well-planned strategy, as Mitch did a great job of presenting today. Scalability, another thing to consider too, with what's going on. You never know, what could be pushed into the forefront at any moment. So scalability is very, very critical.
Okay. In what ways has COVID helped e-commerce businesses?
Well, sort of just hit on that a little bit, I think once again, you have consumers, you have businesses that may have in the past shied away from e-commerce. You have a lot of old timers out there still that are face-to-facers, that are handshake. They won't do business any other way. Well, guess what? In the last 6 months, you're doing business other ways, or you're not doing business. So a lot of change, digital transformations. It's sort of mind-boggling to see the change that has occurred.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mitch, there's a question for you. Any advice for a store that doesn't offer any discounts? You're muted.
Technology. So there are definitely plenty of stores out there that don't offer discounts, and I think one of the best ways in those situations is to just really highlight the product quality, making sure that the product itself is just well presented, using both video and photo. Video is obviously an extremely crucial element to any advertising or marketing these days. You got to be able to capture people's attention in just a few seconds, and just a slight little movement of a video or just a pour shot does a great job there. And then naturally, as I kind of mentioned earlier, like social proof and the reputation of those products are big factors. So you'll hear from like Trustpilot later in the series, week 2 or week 3, I believe, and they'll talk about the importance of reputation management and how it can really accelerate a brand.
Someone else asked, my store only sells one product. What should be the difference in my strategy versus a store that sells thousands of products?
Well, it is a pretty significant strategy, and it will vary based on the product, but either way, more focus on a specific market. Laser targeting, you don't want to be taking any spray and pray approach. The bigger the reach doesn't necessarily always mean the bigger the reward. You want to have a good balance between your rank versus your reach. figuring out where that is and digging into your niche market. You wouldn't want to sell, a swimsuit to somebody in Australia in the middle of Australia in the middle of the winter. That's a bad example.
But Alaska.
Alaska is where I was going with that. Wait a minute, Australia, you'd sell a lot of swimsuits to people in Australia. So you just want to have the opportunity to make stronger connections whenever your pool is stronger or your pool is smaller. Yeah, I mean, that pretty much wraps that up.
All right, I got some questions for Lauren. Lauren, the holidays are coming up quickly. What is the average time it takes to migrate or to build a BigCommerce store?
Thanks, Brad. So that can really vary depending on the type of business you have, as well as the number of integrations you might have, both back house and front of house. I'd say just for an average, direct to consumer, pretty simple implementation. Truthfully, you can really migrate over in a couple weeks and get up and running. But for more established brands that have aspirations for growth, perhaps maybe have ERP integrations, they want to implement loyalty programs, things like that. The average launch time on BigCommerce is about 90 days from signing a contract if you're on enterprise. And folks are typically going to launch much faster if they are working with one of our agency partners, such as Blayzer Commerce, right? To really kind of have that white glove service, really to make sure it goes a lot more smoothly. I will say a lot of folks right now, just due to the holidays and Cyber 5 coming up, they're not really considering making that move and making that switch right now. However, we are actively talking to so many brands who are making that plan to make that switch on January 1st. So just because you're not ready to actually pull the trigger and make that switch before the holidays, certainly doing that work in the background starting now and doing, say, like a new site launch New Year's type promotion or advertisement, that can be really, really successful and a really smart strategy. So a lot of folks are doing the replatform in the background while staying on their current site now. And having those conversations in preparation.
Cool. Another question came in. Some major e-commerce platforms have recently been under fire for data breaches. Can you speak a little to the security of BigCommerce sites?
Yeah, absolutely. I know as some recent news, if y'all heard about Shopify in the last couple of days with the employee data breaches, this is pretty top of mind for a lot of platforms right now. And if anyone's worked with any on-prem systems such as Magento, I always get a ping in my newsfeed about some recent, malware, credit card skimming, activity going on in those systems. So what BigCommerce is doing to differentiate is really investing in rock solid infrastructure. So all of our customers are hosted on Google Cloud, top-notch security there. But all things around, PCI compliance, DDoS mitigation, site-wide HTTPS, really any acronym you can think of, we handle it, right? GDPR compliance for international folks. And the one thing that really does set us apart across all of our competitors actually is last year, we recently achieved an ISO 27001 certification. So that doesn't sound very sexy. So let me talk about what that is. But it's essentially the gold standard of security. So not only is that really trying to protect the privacy of your customers' info and really protecting your site from data breaches and hacks, this is actually a security measure that befalls on the employees at BigCommerce. So making sure that internally no employees can tinker with anything unless they have those credentials. So it's very ironclad both internally at BigCommerce as well as to external threats. So that's why you see a lot of politicians and campaigners use our platform actually to sell their merch because we're so secure and can handle that type of traffic.
All right, and you mentioned Shopify. What's the big difference between BigCommerce and Shopify?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Shopify, great competitor of ours. I think that they're certainly an amazing fit for brand new brands that want to get off the ground running very quickly. Merchants can certainly do that with BigCommerce as well, but the big differentiator is going to be, what are the plans for future growth? I talked about future-proofing your business and, are you on the right platform? What we find more often than not, the people that are leaving Shopify are folks that have outgrown it. Maybe they want to choose, a payment platform of their choice and not have to be burdened by transaction fees, or they want more, flexibility, more best of breed tools to choose from. versus kind of being pigeonholed into, these ancillary services they're building. So I think that their company is really great because they give you all these bundled solutions that can work really well, especially for direct consumer brands. But if you are going B2B, maybe you have omni-channel goals, and there's more sophistication and really complex requirements for your catalog and other SEO considerations. That's really where BigCommerce comes into play, and it's a platform you can grow with and not have to re-platform later.
Okay. One last question for you. You mentioned brands that need to adjust to an at-home audience. What do you exactly mean by that? And what sort of things as business owners should I do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So very relevant for right now, for the at-home audience, really making sure that your customers can see themselves with your products. And what I mean by that, quite simply, making sure you have good user-generated content for people at home with your products. So being able to work with a platform that can easily allow you to manipulate the homepage, product images, your description, information, really tailor that. Even I see some brands showing models with masks on, right? And really showing what's going on with today. And also things like having a rock solid loyalty program, things that are going to make people feel like they're getting a deal right now. Like I said, they want to feel more autonomy and more in control. So being able to play that psychology of what's going on right now and just make your merchants feel good when they're buying from you.
Perfect. I think that ends our Q&A for today. I wanted to invite everybody to next Thursday, October 1st at 2 p.m. is the next part to our series where we're going to have Bright Pearl, TaxJar, Shipper HQ, and Square Talk. So everybody, please join us. If you haven't gotten the links or the invite to the Zoom for next week, be sure to check out our website at midwestecommerceseminar.com. If you have any questions, drop them to qa@midwestecommerceseminar.com or use the hashtag MES2020. You guys have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I know.
Thank you, guys.